June 23rd, 2005. I'm Ted Koppel, and this is Nightline. Tonight, graduation is usually a time for celebration, but not at Chester High School.
It's hard for me to see students, a substantial amount of those students, getting their diploma and can't read it.
They have tried everything in the book.
I do believe that we need to do something drastic. We cannot just put Band-Aids on our problems anymore.
And it seems that the system has run amok.
Would you send your kids to those schools?
No, I won't.
Because?
I want my son to get a good education.
Tonight, failing grade, the miseducation of the children of Chester, Pennsylvania. Back in 1994, the Chester Upland School District was facing a multi-million-dollar deficit and was, by almost all accounts, being grossly mismanaged. Aid was taken over by the state of Pennsylvania. The state fired the school board, replaced it with a 3-member control board. By the year 2000, a private for-profit company, Edison Schools, won a contract putting it in charge of 8 of the district's 9 schools. At that time, the Chester Upland School District ranked dead last out of the 500 school districts in the state. Things couldn't get worse, at least in terms of state ranking, but neither have they gotten much better. Last year, the district was ranked 498th out of 500. This year's rankings don't come out until August. There is only one high school in the district, Chester High. Last spring, the class of 2005, that is, the youngsters who were scheduled to graduate this spring, took Pennsylvania's standardized test. 17% of the students were found to be proficient in reading. 6% were found to be proficient in math. Clearly, it's a public school system in serious condition. One charter school was opened a while back as an alternative to the public high school, but it collapsed. So when school opened last fall, there was huge overcrowding at Chester High. The overcrowding sparked a riot. The riot resulted in 28 arrests last September. Chester High is almost an object lesson in how difficult it can be for a poor, mostly minority community to dig itself out of a deep hole. There was one little piece of good news for Chester High this year, but I'll let Nightline correspondent Michelle Martin tell you about that.
It would have been one of the highlights of the year for any school, a state basketball championship, courtesy of the Chester Clippers boys squad.
He gets in the lineup. Hello.
But for the students at Chester High, it was something more, a rare occasion to shine.
The Clippers of Chester High.
For the students from one of the lowest rated schools in one of the state's most depressed communities.
Y'all come back and see me.
And graduation should have been a highlight too, but for many it was just a relief. To close out a school year that began with a riot and ended with virtually the entire leadership of the school district on the way out.
Countless others could never make it through. You are the strongest. You have survived.
After 4 years at Chester High School, the class of 2005 has lived through the perfect storm of educational disaster. Just about anything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Just days after school started this year, a cafeteria fight, likely caused by overcrowding, ended with 28 students under arrest. 4 principals led the school over the last year alone, and a state bailout was required just to pay the teachers through the end of the school year.
Actually, I feel as though I've been cheated out of my education.
Anya Cleveland is a graduating senior.
We don't have books, and their teachers are inconsistent with their teaching abilities. There are a lot of people saying they're going to do this and that, and it's not getting done. It's always getting pushed back, and I'm a senior now, so it's too late for me.
Chester had one other dubious distinction. It was the first school district to be taken over by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania 12 years ago, mired in cronyism, mismanagement, and budget deficits.
Between $10 and $12 million.
And this year, the system is in the red once again. Parents are torn between outrage and fear about what happens next.
What can the community do? What can you do as a board to stop this rape of the school system?
We've got to invest time, money, and resources in this district.
And the state has to help us do that, because we know there is no additional revenue to be gotten out of this community.
When state officials took over, they stripped authority from the elected school board and installed an appointed 3-member board of control in its place. But there has been little progress in student achievement to show for it. Everyone has a theory on who or what is to blame, starting with the control board.
I think it was incompetent administration that let it get to the point where it is now.
Michael Gillen, a lawyer, is chairman.
Because of overspending in the prior years, we got phony reports from the business office for the last 2 years. Totally made up numbers, and now we're paying for it.
I think the recipe for success of any school district is parental involvement, and we don't have that.
The year that the class of 2005 entered Chester High, they became part of a bold experiment aimed at reversing the slide. State officials and their appointed control board brought in Edison Schools, a private, for-profit concern that manages schools in 20 states and the District of Columbia. In the first year after the takeover, truancy, suspensions, and serious disciplinary incidents went up, and attendance and statewide standardized test scores went down in most schools. Edison officials promised they would turn things around, but the complaints continued of too much chaos, too few resources in the classrooms.
Since Edison's been here, students, number one, aren't allowed to take books home. How can you do your homework without taking books home?
-2 minus what?
Slowly, though, Edison officials say they began to make progress, particularly at the high school, where a dynamic young principal came in to take charge. He had a PhD and a story to tell. The kids all called him Doc.
I'm from South Central Los Angeles, born and raised. I came from the same background our kids here in Chester come from. I mean, both my parents were addicted to drugs. I mean, I've been homeless. I've had to beg for money to feed myself since I was 5 years old. I've been in and out of trouble. I've been kicked out of 2 schools in the 9th grade, first semester of the 9th grade. So I've been through the heartache and pain that these kids are going through.
When we come back, could Dr. Wilson really change anything at Chester High?
This 27-year-old guy is not going to come in here and change anything. Who is he? Who do he think he is?
This is ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by IBM.
Sir Arthur, a giant sloth, has attacked our service up at Slough, bringing great unrest to the customer base. Consultant Ned, what do you advise?
You must build a giant catapult to fire the greatest of projectiles at the sloth.
What kind of projectile? Are you suggesting we throw money at the problem?
Precisely.
And thus Sir Arthur saw the need for IBM consultants, who actually are accountable for results.
Moving along, nothing to see. Do we know what killed him? No chemical odor. Can't be a bug spray. Only a bug spray can kill that fast.
Now there's a raid that uses the power of plants to kill bugs dead. Introducing Raid Earth Options, specially formulated with plant oil.
Smells like cloves. Are you saying he was killed by some kind of plant? Or something very, very close.
Raid! New Raid Earth Options kills bugs dead. S.C. Johnson Family Company.
This Friday, 2020 is positively sinful with the premiere of a brand new 2020 series, The New 7 Deadly Sins. And this week, is vanity pushing parents to give their teen daughters breast implants as graduation gifts? Don't miss 2020 Friday.
I'm Tamala Edwards.
And I'm Matt O'Donnell. Tomorrow morning on Action News, from the city to the shore, we'll show you all the cool things happening this weekend.
Plus, AccuWeather's weekend forecast, traffic, and all your overnight news. Tomorrow morning on Action News, we'll see you at 5 a.m.
The Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, celebrating 200 years as the home to America's artists. Experience all that we have to offer. Log on to WPBI.com for the bicentennial calendar of events. Brought to you by your Super Network Cadillac dealer, Breakthrough.
You only need one website. One awesome